Okay, what is Phat Ninja Farm? If you've heard me before, I call it a permaculture designed food forest. It's 6 years old. What that means is we're trying to get the most output with the minimum input by mimicking nature. If you look at the forest, it turns green from the top to the bottom every year without any help from us. It's been doing that for millions of years, working in a symbiotic relationship between the plants, the animals, the insects, the fungi. I'm trying not to ramble. I'm going to keep it short and explain the three basic areas we see here within this. In permaculture we call them zones. In a perfect world they'd be concentric circles, getting larger as you went out. Places you visited less and less the further away from your home base, zone 0, which is your home. But we have pretty much using what I'd call zone 1 is our kitchen garden area. We'll talk about that. It's inside the fence here, away from the chickens and ducks. The ducks are allowed in there. They do insect patrol. They're not as rough on it. The fence goes all the way around the bottom third here, or half of the property. The bottom half of that is where we grow our long-term storage crops, long-term annuals, corn, beans, squash, garlic, things like that we can just plant and not spend a whole bunch of time harvesting. You just harvest at the end. Mixed in there is fruit trees. They're in guilds. We'll talk a little bit about that. And on the outside is a true food forest where everything is planted with perennials and guilds around a key species in the center. There are some annuals mixed in there as well. Alright, so have a look. Okay, so looking back up, we started where Angel and Lucy are. Swiss has the kitchen garden. Brought an old broken concrete, urbanite, built these beds up out of those. That'll catch and store that energy, that heat, creating a microclimate. Strawberries in the front where the heat starts. As you can see, there's lettuces and arugulas and young onions and new summer squash and broccolis and kales, all kinds of greens, some fresh cucumbers planted in there, some tomatoes. This is stuff that we harvest every day as we walk through here to go in the greenhouse and let our chickens and our ducks out and then put them up at night. So we're in here at least once a day, twice a day. We do have multiple flowers mixed in, perennial flowers too, to call in the insects, do the pollination. See strawberries in the back. There's hardy kiwis that are climbing up onto the deck. Plant nursery there, and an aquaponic greenhouse in the back. So now we're at the bottom of the annual garden area, where we do the long-term annuals. You see the rickety fence there. We've got grapes, asparagus, understory cherries, gooseberries, currants, medium-sized pear trees, hazelnuts on either end that are all in here starting to take over this area. So as they start producing more and more nuts, fruits, and berries for us, there'll be less and less room for the annuals down here. It'll be taking care of that nutrition, that nutrient, that, what am I trying to say? That nutrition need, those nutrition needs will be met by perennial crops rather than annual crops, reducing the labor input on my part. There's also sochan at the bottom of a few of these. I found that does grow quite fast and get out of hand. There's lots of comfrey. You can see the drip line all around the trees. Any questions on these? There's just too much to talk about. As I get going, I could talk about comfrey for half an hour. So we'll talk about these things. I'll leave these in the video, and if you have any questions, I can make another video or answer your questions. That is a deep taproot. It goes real deep down in, accessing those minerals and nutrients that most of your shallow-rooted annual crops cannot. I chop and drop that in place. I use it in compost teas and in my compost as a compost starter, leaving those nutrients there to be shared. This is a perennial leek here. It comes back in clumps where the seed head drops the year before. We spread those throughout the garden. Lots of potatoes mixed in here. Austrian winter peas. It's one of my favorite salad greens. One of my other favorite salad greens is chickweed and violets. Flowers and the greens are edible. This is a Josta berry cutting we put in there last year, the year before. Some cabbages mixed in. Damn groundhog got the tops of those. This is a gooseberry here. Red raspberries, onions, garlic, hazelnut. Some chrysanthemums mixed in there. Lilies in the background and more comfrey. Smells like black licorice, perennial, lots of flowers on it, not bee balm. Anyways, that's another pear tree behind it. It's loaded with fruit this year. Similar guilds around it. Alright, I've rambled on enough about this one. We'll move over to a very similar one in the food forest side. So we just came outside the fence into the food forest. Our key species is the center apple here. It's our first apple. I wish I could tell you what it is, but I never wrote it down. It's got multiple grafts on it. It's got a scion from the 16th century from Europe. I don't know the name of it. It was a gift from a friend. It's got a gold rush on there. It's got a stamen wine sap. And two other ones which I can't remember now. Sedums down front. Strawberries. Some buckwheat mixed in. Austrian winter pea. Lots of horseradish. Black-eyed Susans. Echinacea. A few other kinds, assortment of lilies and irises. Some sochan over there. Blackberries. That's a gummy berry to its left, and a silverberry all the way over the other side. There's also a gooseberry here with the young berries on it. You see the thorns on that. Autumn olive in the middle. And this is the Josta berry, the mix between the currant and the gooseberry. So that's more full-size Josta berry and close to it gooseberry. And we see they're in every guild mixed within there. So through the years, as those become bigger and bigger, producing more and more berries, they'll take up the productive space of those annuals. Alright, I should have a script. I don't know what I want to say. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let's have a look at these bees before we go. I don't know if you can make out how many there are. Never does it justice.